And these are our biscuits. Hey guys, welcome to my kitchen. I'm Jamison, and this is how I cook. Have you ever wanted homemade biscuits and you've been intimidated by the recipe? Well, up next, I'm gonna show you guys how I make the easiest homemade biscuits you've ever had. They're gonna be the best biscuits you've ever had as well. Up next, so this is how I cook. Okay guys, before we get too far into the recipe, do me a favor, hit that subscription button and turn on those notifications. It really does help my channel. So here are our ingredients. I've got 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I prefer gold medal all-purpose flour for making my biscuits. They come out really tender with this flour. We've got 4 ounces of really, and I can't stress this enough, really cold butter. I've actually got 4 ounces of frozen butter that I'm gonna grate into the flour to make the biscuits. I've got some salt, I've got some baking powder, and I've also got almost 2 cups, but it's really a cup and a half of heavy whipping cream. These are the easiest biscuits you'll ever make. So all-purpose flour doesn't have any leavener in it. So unlike self-rising flour, which has baking powder already incorporated into it, I'm gonna show you guys how I make my own self-rising flour. So the first thing we need is a bit of baking powder. The recipe that I use requires 3 teaspoons of baking powder. And if you're using rounded teaspoons, keep that in mind. You want to be precise with this. You don't want too much baking powder in your flour. Next, we have to add a half a teaspoon of salt. The salt and the baking powder react with each other, and that's what produces the carbon dioxide that gives your particular baked good the lift that you want. Now that we've incorporated this into the flour, we just whisk it in and make sure it's nice and mixed well. And that's your self-rising flour. Okay, so our next step is we're gonna take our really cold butter. I got mine from the freezer, and we're gonna grate this butter into our flour for the biscuits. The secret to making homemade biscuits and getting those nice flaky layers in your biscuit that we all like is it all starts with really cold butter. So this is 4 ounces of butter, and I'm gonna use my grater to quickly put this butter into the flour. And so the next thing we wanna do now is take our butter and coat it with the flour. You want to be fast with this, because what we don't want to have happen is we don't want our butter to melt in here. So it should look like this. We want our butter to maintain its texture as long as possible as we put these biscuits together. The next thing we're going to do at this point is begin to add in our 1.5 cups of heavy cream. And all you want to do with this is get your biscuits mixed up here. You want the flour and cream mixture to come together. Now, the mistake that I used to make when I made biscuits is that I would over stir at this point. That's not what we want to do. We want to take this dough as loose as it is and then just turn it out onto our floured surface. At this point, what I'd like you to do is turn your oven on to 500 degrees and get it preheated. So what we're gonna do is come back here with our biscuit dough, and we're gonna scrape it out. And remember, this has to stay cold, so you wanna work this pretty quick, but you don't have to rush, but don't take too long here either. The tendency is, like I said, to wanna kind of smash everything together. But what we wanna do is just kind of come here and form a loose dough ball. And if the dough wants to stick to your hand, that's okay. Just get you some flour, like I did, and then kind of work it together. And then this is our biscuit dough, right? Make sure we don't have too much excess flour getting into our dough. Now I have a rolling pin, and I suggest you use one too. And what we're gonna do with our rolling pin is add some flour to our rolling pin. And so what we're gonna start with here is we still got our dough, and it's still really cold. We're gonna just take our time and roll out our dough. Now, the mixing of your dough together, it's actually gonna occur here as you roll. And don't worry that it's a little loose at first. That's okay, because we're gonna tighten it up as we make our layers here. Now what I'm gonna do is take my bench scraper and come in underneath my dough, and I wanna fold this into thirds. So that part's into a third, come out on this side, and then fold that part into a third. And if it crumbles on you, that's okay, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna work this dough together with our rolling pin. And so I just take my pieces that want to come off, and we work it, those pieces back into the dough. And you can see the layers developing using this technique. And every time we fold this biscuit dough, we're adding layers to our final biscuit. And see how tight it's becoming now? It's less loose now. Now it feels like a solid piece of dough. And we want to come in again and just take our time and work it out. And every time we do this, we're adding layers. And this is our biscuit dough with a bunch of beautiful layers on the inside. So now the last thing we want to do in terms of getting our biscuits cut is we want to take our biscuit cutter, and this is a 2 1/4 size cutter I've got here. And all I want to do is come in and get as close to the edge as I can, but get a whole biscuit out. And press down, and then twist. And then tap out your biscuit. And if it tries to stick, like this one did, what you can do is come in and get you some flour. And make sure you really coat the biscuit cutter well with it. And then we want to come back in here and do this again. You can take another biscuit from it and push down, twist. And now they come out easier because we floured the cutter. And keep repeating that if you start having trouble cutting your biscuits clean and getting them out the cutter. And those are our biscuits. Now, if you have leftover scraps of dough, you can come in and do the exact same thing and take this dough and roll your dough flat again. And then now you can cut out 2 more biscuits, maybe even 3 if you're lucky here. We want to prepare our baking dish. And so what I'd like to do is take the last of my butter that I had left over, and we're going to smear this nicely on the bottom of our baking glass. And then what we'll do here is come in here with our biscuits. If you have any excess flour on your biscuits, we'll go ahead and scrub it off as you put them in, and we'll just lay these in. And we actually want these to touch because as they touch, it helps them to rise. And we'll take these biscuits, put them into the oven at 500 degrees, and we'll let them bake for 10 minutes or until they become nice and risen with a nice lightly brown top on them, very faintly brown. And these are our biscuits. So to finish these off, I like to take a little bit of butter and tap it against the warm glass. And then just rub them on top of the biscuits. You don't have to do this, but this will help make the tops of your biscuits tender. So I want to show you the inside of this biscuit. And this is still really warm, but you can see all the layers inside the biscuit. On the edge here, you see all these layers. Inside, see how flaky the biscuit is? That's a wonderful biscuit. Take a little bit of butter, put on one side of this. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of apple butter and put on this side here. Just a little bit. That's how I like my biscuits. All right, guys, it's time for the taste test. I think I'm gonna start with this just butter side here. Oh wow. Super tender. Flaky, buttery. I'm gonna try to describe this. It's like a cloud in your mouth. It's just so rich, flavorful, decadent. It's moist. It's rich. You don't want to eat a bunch of these for breakfast. Maybe one. These will freeze wonderfully. Just take them out and reheat them gently in your oven. But those are amazing. I mean, amazing and super simple to put together biscuits. Hopefully the mystery now of making a biscuit at home has gone by the wayside. So guys, I'm Jamison. Once again, this is how I cook. Thank you guys so much for watching and sharing and telling people about my channel. Do me a favor, hit that subscription button on the way out. Subscribing is how you say thank you for the content. And guys, I gotta do something with all these dangerously amazing decadent biscuits. Oh man, I wish I had a piece of ham right now. I think I got some in the fridge. So you guys take care and we'll talk soon. Man, that's a good biscuit.